All right, let's go over vocab 1C. So for 1C, we've only got 4 terms, so that's not bad. And some of them are new, some of their root words are not, though. Okay, so that's helpful. All right, so 1C, the first one we've got is he came. So repiten, vino. Vino. Vino is an irregular verb. Okay, now in the preterite tense, which is this column, right, that means he came. But how do we say to come? So to come, class A, is the verb right here, venir. Okay, venir right here. Can you see that? So when we look at that, compared to the vocab sheet, you can see that it is an irregular verb. Okay, so again, we're going to have an irregular stem, and then we're going to see our irregular ending. But remember that irregular preterites do not get accents, right? So we're not going to see that on here. So venir means to come. Well, class A, how do we say he or she comes in the present tense? He or she comes to school. Well, when we conjugate that into the present tense, right here, okay, it is a stem changing verb. So in the present tense, we have an E to IE stem change. Okay, but when you're looking at this chart, you'll obviously see that we have an irregular yo as well. So remember, in the present tense, there are just some verbs that get an irregular yo conjugation. Most of the time, it's because of something with pronunciation, but we don't really need to know that. We just need to know, hey, this one has an irregular yo form. So here we're seeing that. So it's vengo. Then we get to the stem changing part. So we have vienes, viene, venimos, vienen. Notice venimos does not have a stem change because it's not in the boot. Also, if you look at these conjugations, it looks a lot like the verb tener, when tener, to have, conjugates in the present tense, right? So we end up with tengo, tienes, tiene, tenemos, and tienen. Bueno? Then, when we go to the preterite tense, we've got our irregular conjugations. Okay, with the irregular conjugations, you end up with this, again, the stem of veen. And you can see that highlighted all throughout the chart here. So we've got vine, viniste, vino, vinimos, vinieron. Notice there are no accents because it's not an because it is an irregular verb, and irregular verbs don't get accents. Also, if you think back and you compare it to the verb decir in the preterite tense, which goes to dich, we end up with a lot of the same endings. So remember, it was dije, dijiste, dijo, dijimos, dijeron. So almost the same, not exactly the same, but if you can think back to that, it really does help kind of think through that chart a little bit. Okay, then the next verb that we see here is he saw, and that's vio. Repiten, vio. Vio is another irregular preterite tense verb. Okay, so we're going to go through the conjugations for that. But he saw has to come from to see. And think for a second, what is to see? Ver. Okay, so ver, which is right here. And you learned that one last year, so it's not a new word. Now, in the present tense, we do see an irregular yo form, again, not irregular for the, uncommon for the present tense. So we've got veo, ves, ve, vemos, ven. So other than that yo form, it is a regular verb, okay, but that veo. Preterite tense, it's an irregular verb, so here is that chart right here, and it's vi, viste, vio, vimos, vieron. So that VI, that's your irregular stem, but because it's an irregular preterite, again, we're not going to see any accents. Okay, then the next one is he conquered. Repiten, venció. This is not an irregular verb, so that is helpful. And this comes from the verb vencer. You can see that right here, vencer. And vencer means to conquer. In the present tense, it's almost a regular verb, except for that preterite yo, you guessed it, right? Because the present tense, again, just has a lot of irregular yos. Now here we're going to make a spell change, and we're going to change the Z, or the C, to a Z, and that's for pronunciation, because if we didn't change it, if we left it a C, we would pronounce that venko, but the infinitive is pronounced vencer, and so we're going to want to maintain that sound. So we trade the C for a Z, and then it's pronounced venso. From there, though, it's a regular verb. Vences, vence, vencemos, vencen. And don't forget with the present tense, we do have amos and emos, so you have to pay attention to hey, is this an ER or an IR verb? Preterite tense, it's another regular verb. Venci, venciste, vencio, vencimos, vencieron. There's nothing irregular about that verb. Okay, it is a completely regular verb in the preterite tense. We are seeing those ER, IR endings. So, iste, io, imos, ieron. All right, then the final new word on, and it's not really even new, but the final word on 1C is he did or he made, and that is hizo. Hizo. Now think for a second, what is to do or to make? You know this verb already. So it comes from the verb hacer. Bueno, hacer. So hacer right here, which means to do or to make. In the present tense, we almost have a regular verb except for that irregular yo. So in order to say I do or I make, it's hago. And it is a go verb here. Then it's a regular verb from there on out. So it's haces, hace, hacemos, hacen. In the preterite tense, though, it is an irregular verb. Okay? And our irregular stem is going to be is. H-I-C. So we get hice, hiciste, hizo, hicimos, hicieron. Notice there are no irregular accents because it is an irregular verb in the preterite tense, and those don't get any accents. So we're also seeing this is stem almost all the way throughout the conjugation. But when you look at the he, she, it form of he did or he made, we have a Z. Why? Why do we have a Z there? Because if we didn't change it and we just said H-I-C-O, how would you pronounce that? Ico. But our infinitive is hacer, and remember we're trying to maintain that sound from the infinitive verb. Okay, and so we're going to flip out the C for a Z because that allows us to keep the S sound. So we end up with hizo. Okay, and that's the only form we see it in because none of the other vowels create that same problem. Okay, only the O when it follows a C. So we're going to change that out right there. But otherwise, guys, that is it. So he came, vino, our action for that is going to be like this, right? Like come here, or like this, come here. So when I say vino, you're going to go like this. Vio, he saw, we're going to just do one of these, vio. He conquered is venció. We're going to stand, put our hand on our hip, and we're going to put the flag in the ground as if we are conquering the new world or whatever it is. So venció. And then hizo is he or she did or made, and we are going to be making cookies. Bueno, so either stir in a bowl, or sometimes they do one of these, like this. I don't care. Whatever, however it is that you make cookies, that's what you're going to do. So again, vino, vio, venció, hizo. Bueno, so if you have any questions, let me know about that. But I will also post a video of the class when I teach them this chart, because sometimes there's extra conversation that happens in that. So I'll post that to my YouTube channel as well. All right, hope you're doing well.